Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 7 Part 10 based on novel. So let's start. Boundless yuan power engulfed the area like a wild storm. Gusts swept up across the stone-littered ground, causing sand and pebbles to fill the air, making one feel as if one was in a storm. Numerous gazes turned to the direction of the whooshing sound in a flash of understanding. These gazes were filled with surprise and expectation. Amidst the rubble, the eyes of the three men, who were wearing robes that had skull prints on them, began to flicker. Then, they stood up expressionlessly, and due to their powerful auras, the yuan power in the surroundings started to show signs of undulation. Hee, how daring of you! There are not many people in the ancient battlefield who dare to rush into a trap set up by the Sky Devil Empire. An uncanny laugh came from behind the three black-robed men. Soon after, two more figures appeared. One of them was dressed in a blood-red robe and his body was reeking of blood. The other person was dressed in a pale white robe which seemed extremely ghastly, giving off a sinister feeling. Shui Ying, who are Gu, let my Sky Devil Empire deal with Lin Dong and his party. I will leave Liu Bai and his counterparts to your Blood Seal Empire and Bone Jade Empire. I hope both of you won't be as useless as the Great Net Empire. One of the skull-printed, black-robed men said indifferently. He had a pair of hollow eyes and a distinct aquiline nose, exuding a rather menacing aura. He was the second brother of the Song Devils, Song Q. Don't worry, brother Song Q. Liu Bai and his counterparts will not escape, the blood-red-robed man and the pale white-robed man replied hastily to Song Q's indifferent words. They clearly knew how ruthless the killing methods of the three men before them were. The capabilities of the Song Devils sufficed to make the two men fear them. Lin Dong and his counterparts must be quite capable to be able to defeat the Great Net Empire. Much to my surprise, they approached us with no hesitation even though they knew of the trap I have set. The man standing at most front of the three black-robed men smirked. He was the most gentle-looking out of the three men. However, those who were familiar with the Song Devils knew that he was Songjin, the most terrifying one out of the three men. Not only was his strength terrifying, but his killing methods were extremely terrifying as well. Reportedly, none of those who had their Nirvana seals seized by him survived. As such, whoever encountered this fiend did not even have the courage to put up any resistance and surrendered his or her Nirvana seal automatically in hope of surviving. This is quite a good burial ground. Song Ba, who was ranked third among the three men, curled his mouth and sneered. His pale white teeth contained an aura that would make one's heart palpitate. Behind the three men, the Shui Ying duo broke out into a sinister laughter and then raised their heads to look in the direction of the wind-whipping sound. Swish swish. The sound of wind whipping became increasingly intense. After a moment, all the gazes were converged at the piece of land that was full of rubble. A figure emerged from the forest and landed slowly outside of the rubble land. Atop the huge boulder, Lin Ying and Qing Feng raised their heads and stared at the figure who had just appeared. This figure was somewhat familiar. It was Lin Dong. Swoosh swoosh. As Lin Dong and his counterparts landed outside of the rubble land, numerous sounds of wind whipping broke out behind them. Numerous figures came in from all directions and landed outside of the rubble land, causing the border of the land to be congested. Those three men are the Song Devils of the Sky Devil Empire. The ones behind them are the leaders of the Blood Seal Empire and Bone Jade Empire. The two of them are of the same level as the Great Net Empire's Xiao Shan. Liu Bai commented in a soft voice as he stood beside Lin Dong and stared solemnly at the three figures wearing skull-printed black robes. Lin Dong raised his head and stared at the three figures whose bodies were surging with violent yuan power. A grave look flashed across his eyes. He could sense the formidable strength of the three men. On the border of the land, there were countless practitioners from the three great empires eyeing this scene covetously. However, most of their faces contained a mocking look. Clearly, they regarded Lin Dong and his counterparts as a bunch of trapped fishes. More and more people gathered around the rubble land after Lin Dong and his counterparts arrived. However, there were not much disorder or chaos. Under the powerful auras exuded by the bodies of the Song Devils, These participants that used to show signs of insanity due to the atmosphere of the 100 Empire Forest seemed to have awakened. They knew that this battleground did not belong to them. Lin Dong's gaze landed upon the three black figures who were standing upright on the distant huge boulder. The gazes of the Songjin trio landed upon Lin Dong and his counterparts as well. A weird smile slowly rose upon their faces. Clap, clap. Under the attentive gazes of the onlookers, Songjin clapped his hands lightly and smiled. You must be Lin Dong. Regardless, your courage impresses me. If not for our inheritances, I might have made friends with you. I'm afraid I'm not worthy of that, Lin Dong smiled plainly. Apparently, he had sensed the mocking tone in Songjin's words. That's true, those who are about to die are indeed not worthy. Lin Dong, don't assume that you are qualified to act flamboyant in front of my Sky Devil Empire just because you have some fame. To put it bluntly, you are not even qualified at all, Song Q replied indifferently. Your tone is even much more arrogant than mine, little Martin smirked as a smile rose upon his handsome face. Song Q's eyes froze. Suddenly, he shot a piercing cold stare at little Martin and pointed his index finger outwards. Immediately, a spiraling gale whizzed out of his finger like a lightning and surged towards little Martin with a terrifying speed. However, little Martin did not show any signs of dodging upon seeing Song Q's incoming attack. Before the powerful spiraling gale reached within 10 feet of little Martin, it automatically disappeared. This scene sent a shiver down many people's spines. It's a disgrace to play such a trick in front of Grandpa Martin. If you really want to court death, get down now. Grandpa Martin has never heard of your bullshit Sky Devil Empire. Little Martin sneered as he stared at Song Q with chilliness surging through his eyes. You courting death? Song Q went into a rage of a sudden. Boundless yuan power and killer intent pervaded the air abruptly, making the surrounding onlookers to tremble in fear. Both parties were harsh towards each other. In their conversations, there were no signs of giving way to each other. Clearly, both parties were prepared to fight each other. You are the first person that dares to scold my Sky Devil Empire in such a way, Songjin chuckled. However, everyone could sense the anger that was concealed behind his chuckle. Each time we encounter a super empire with a superiority complex, they always have to spurt out a bunch of nonsense first. Lin Dong could not help but heave a sigh. Following which, under numerous attentive gazes, he reached out his finger and pointed it at Songjin. Then, he spoke with a calm tone, let's start fighting. Otherwise, surrender your Nirvana seal and get lost. Whoa! The area went into an uproar. Even Lin Ying and Qing Feng, who were standing on that huge boulder, were stunned by this scene. After a moment, Qing Feng turned to Lin Ying and gave a thumb up and said, this lad is really something. He dares to say such things to Songjin. I don't know whether he is trying to be brave or what. How can a person like him, who came from a low-rank empire, make it here just by being hot-headed and putting on a brave front? Lan Ying smiled gently. I hope you're right. Otherwise, this would be boring. Qing Feng shrugged his shoulder and replied. Ha ha, interesting. Songjin gave a smile and stared at Lin Dong. Traces of ghastliness were rising deep within his eyes. Violent yuan power was surging through his body like a volcanic eruption. Everyone could tell that the leader of the Sky Devil Empire was extremely enraged. It has been quite a while since I have such a desire to kill someone. None of you shall escape from here today. Songjin's face continued to carry a smile. However, the words that came out of his mouth made the surrounding practitioners tremble in fear. Some people even retreated from the area silently. Brother Liu Bai, I shall leave Blood Seal Empire and Bone Jade Empire to you and your counterparts. Lin Dong turned his head and looked at Liu Bai and instructed softly. My two brothers and I will handle the Song Devils. Liu Bai stared blankly at Lin Dong. From the latter's voice, Liu Bai could not sense any fear. Instead, his voice was filled with an unconcealable battle fury. No matter who they were facing, these fellow always seemed to display no fear at all. Brother Lin Dong, don't worry. No matter how fierce the fight is, we will not let them interfere with your battle. Liu Bai assured in a low voice after taking in a deep breath. Lin Dong smiled and nodded his head. The Lin Dong trio then looked at each other in the eyes and nodded their heads slightly. Under the watchful eyes of the onlookers, they took a step forward. Bang bang. As the three of them stepped forward, the rubble on the ground exploded. Astonishing power swept out from their bodies. Songjin licked his lips with his scarlet tongue. His eyes were filled with intense killer intent. Soon after, he took a step forward as well. Behind him, Song Q and Song Ba followed suit. Immediately, numerous huge cracks extended throughout the huge boulder that was beneath their feet. Kill! A low and cold voice came out of Lin Dong and Songjin's mouths almost at the same time. At this moment, 6 ghost-like figures surged forward in an instant. At this point of time, killing intent rushed into the sky and caused a storm from every direction. Wild wind surged, carrying 6 ghost-like figures that rushed over the chaotic rock ground. When they crossed each other, it appeared as though this entire area turned silent for an instant. After which, everyone could see a terrifying storm suddenly sweeping over. The large rocks around instantly exploded into dust. Wild wind was accompanied by the rock fragments that shot out and directly slammed into the ground around the place, until a large number of holes were formed. The permeating sandy wind surged and Lin Dong's sharp eyes were directly locked on the eldest of the 3 Song Devils, Songjin. Although the 3 Song Devils were experts who had stepped into the 5 Yuan Nirvana stage, Songjin looked particularly difficult to deal with. If one was to really discuss about fighting strength, the strongest was naturally little Martin with unfathomable strength. However, the precondition of doing so was that he must reveal the physical body of the celestial demon Martin, and the current situation clearly did not allow this. Hence, since Lin Dong was afraid that little Martin might end up blowing his cover, he did not assign Songjin to the latter. Instead, he personally stepped forward to fight Songjin alone. You actually dare to challenge me with just the strength of a 3 Yuan Nirvana stage? I really wonder where your courage comes from. Songjin looked towards that figure which had rushed over. He smiled slightly, but his eyes contained trace of dark chillness climbing into them. Bright gold light agglomerated on his right leg. In the blink of an eye, his right leg appeared as though it was made of gold. Bam! Songjin's gold-colored right leg handed heavily onto the ground, causing the land to tremble a little. An enormous gap quickly spread out from under his foot in a lightning-like manner. It became just like a ground dragon that tore the land and rushed towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong's eyes scintillated as he watched the cracked ground. He could sense that there was an incomparably wild and violent energy hidden within it. It turns out that Songjin's true strength was extremely powerful. Being at 5 Yuan Nirvana stage was sufficient for him to look down on everyone else. Even Lin Dong did not dare to underestimate such an opponent. He immediately beckoned with his hand before a black-colored metal seal appeared in his hand. Immediately, a monstrous black glow that soared with the wind came slamming down heavily. Boom! The instant the metal seal violently smashed onto the ground, the trembling ground became quiet immediately. Even that rising ground dragon was forcefully suppressed by that metal seal. Heavenly soul treasure? Even though you possess a heavenly soul treasure, how can you fight with me with just your mere 3 Yuan Nirvana stage strength? A glint flashed across Songjin's eyes. He had identified the soul treasure in Lin Dong's hands with just a glance. However, he was not surprised. Instead, he laughed once again as he stepped forward. Bang bang bang. The ground around the black metal seal suddenly exploded. The ground dragon whizzed out while being accompanied by some rock fragments. They violently attacked Lin Dong, who was standing on the metal seal. The speed of the 4 ground dragons was just like a thunderbolt. Even quite a number of experts that had stepped into the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage could only see a rock fragment stream flash past their eyes. After which, they saw the 4 ground dragons had already sealed off Lin Dong's retreat path. The ground dragon contained some fierce violent strength as it came smashing down furiously. However, just as they were about to hit Lin Dong, a green glow suddenly spread across his body before they transformed into 4 glowing green scale shield. Bang bang! The ground dragons that contained a mighty Yuan power smashed furiously onto the green scale shield without showing any mercy. As the shockwave scattered forth, it caused the skin on the heads of quite a number of people to turn numb. Just this attack from Songjun would likely be sufficient to seriously injure some for Nirvana stage experts. They really did not know how Lin Dong, who only had the strength of a 3 Nirvana stage expert, was going to block it. Rock fragments that permeated the sky shot out explosively. After which, everyone saw that Lin Dong's body had also swiftly shot backwards. The green scale armor that had just been formed also quickly paled. Clearly, it was forcefully scattered by the ground dragon. From the looks of this, it seemed like Lin Dong would have difficulty obtaining the upper hand in his fight with Songjun. Do you only have this little ability? It looks like you were only able to defeat Luo Tong by chance. Songjun smiled faintly. There was a ridicule in his smile. Moreover, his attack did not stop while he spoke. Majestic Yuan power whistled out. Wild and violent attacks covered Lin Dong like a storm, not giving him even the chance to catch his breath. Strangely though, Lin Dong continued to dodge Songjun's attacks. In fact, it looked as though he was a little afraid of fighting directly with Songjun. Some soft exclamations was also erupted from the surroundings upon seeing this scene. Clearly, they did not expect that Lin Dong would show signs of being at a disadvantage after having just started fighting. It appeared that the gap of 2 levels was not something that was so easy to make up for. Lin Ying, who was observing the battle within the battleground, suddenly emitted a soft huh. She softly uttered, "Why did Lin Dong's attacks become a little weaker?" No matter how one puts it, Songjun is a 5 Nirvana stage expert while Lin Dong is only at 3 Nirvana stage. Although the latter is quite strong, it is naturally impossible to challenge someone 2 levels higher. It is not surprising that he would end up being pushed into having a disadvantageous position. Feng Qing laughed faintly. Lin Ying knitted her eyebrows slightly. Her pretty eyes stared at Lin Dong, who was dodging and pulling back. She vaguely sensed that something was off. It was possible for her to see that Lin Dong's face did not reveal the slightest anxiety and panic in face of Songjun's intense attacks. In fact, his pair of eyes had a faint glint flickering within it. What is this fellow planning? A glint flashed across Lin Ying's eyes as though a thought had appeared within her mind. Lin Dong is... The expression of Liu Bai's group also changed when they saw this scene. They were a little unable to comprehend why Lin Dong would suddenly choose to dodge and avoid fighting. Could it be that he was really no match for Songjun? There were also some doubt in the eyes of Su Kuei and Su Ru by the side. They had been together with Lin Dong for such a long time and were aware of some of the latter's techniques. Songjun was indeed powerful, but it would not reach the point of being able to force Lin Dong, who had an endless number of trump cards, to such an extent. Is this the legendary Dark Horse who is rumored to be able to challenge the 10 great super empires? Song Q also laughed coldly when he saw this scene. You really speak too much nonsense. Don't you think that it is a little early to be celebrating now? Little Martin's ghost-like figure directly appeared in front of Song Q. His handsome face currently had a chillness surging within it. Purple-black energy swiftly surged on both of his hands. Its great corrosive strength caused the surrounding air to sizzle. You dare to deliver yourself, you must be courting death. Today, none of you should even plan to leave alive. A ferocious smile involuntarily flashed across Song Q's face when he saw this situation. He clenched his large hand and a bright gold light surged out. This gold light directly agglomerated into a gold-colored large blade in his hand. Within the Nirvana stage, those Nirvana golden body that had underwent tempering from 5 Nirvana tribulations would become quite powerful. In fact, some of the Nirvana golden body strength will spill over and they can agglomerate it into various items. The offensive or defensive strength of these things would be extremely powerful. Clearly, Song Q had already reached this stage. Creak! The gold-colored large blade came hacking down furiously. Before it was completely unleashed, a splitting sound was emitted from the ground. A large deep gully that was nearly 100 feet large was formed. Humph! However, a cold smile flashed across little Martin's eyes in the face of this kind of powerful attack. Purple-black glow gathered on his palm. It vaguely transformed into the shape of a claw. After which, it was extended out and directly grabbed that gold-colored large blade that came hacking down furiously. A cruel smile immediately surfaced on Song Q's face when he saw that little Martin actually dared to arrogantly block his blade attack. However, his smile had just appeared when it froze solid due to a slight crack sound. This was because he saw that his gold-colored large blade, which was now grabbed by little Martin's hand, had actually collapsed between his 5 fingers. "You useless being actually dare to act so arrogantly in front of me." Little Martin's eyes became dark and cold. He shattered the golden large blade with his hand. After which, he extended his right palm with lightning-like speed and directly penetrated through Song Q's defense. After which, it ruthlessly imprinted onto the latter's chest. Wild and violent strength spluttered out and sent Song Q flying with a palm. Clamor. This scene once again invited numerous exclamations. Those people, who had been greatly disappointed by Lin Dong's performance, finally braced their attention. From the looks of it, Lin Dong's group was not as weak as they imagined. "So you are actually the strongest within that group? It seems like Lin Dong is just acting tough." Song Q's eyes sunk as he looked at this scene and said. Song Q's expression changed slightly after his voice sounded. A black rod shadow had directly penetrated through the air in his eyes and was shooting over explosively. It was possible to vaguely see a black tiger roaring towards the sky over the rod. Song Ba let out a cold snort. He did not even need to look in order to tell that the one who had attacked was definitely Little Flame from Lin Dong's group. Gold light immediately surged. After which, it directly transformed into a gold-colored large shield in front of Song Ba. Clang! The black-colored metal rod violently landed onto the gold-colored large shield. A shocking sound scattered. Those 2 enormous rocks by the side were immediately blasted apart, transforming into rock dust that scattered throughout the sky. "Don't worry, the last one lying on the ground will definitely not be my big brother." Little Flame's muscular giant-like figure appeared in front of Song Ba. His low and deep voice was just like muffled thunder. Meanwhile, the metal rod in his hand actually transformed into numerous rod after images that swept towards Song Ba from all directions. "Nonsense." Song Ba laughed ferociously. Immediately, a fierce glint erupted from his eyes. Majestic Yuan power surged and directly collided hard with Little Flame. Bang bang. The intense battle that had suddenly erupted within the arena caused Liu Bai's and Yang Sen's expressions to gradually become grave. Lin Dong was currently still at a disadvantage. His manner seemed as though he did not have the ability to fight back against Song Shen. In fact, his shaky manner hinted that he would not be able to last for long. What exactly is this fellow doing? Liu Bai clenched his fist slightly. He was really unable to believe that a person who could completely defeat Xiao Shan would actually end up with such disadvantage in Song Shen's hands. While everyone were feeling doubtful because of this, Lin Dong's figure continued to dodge. Only occasionally did he use the black metal seal in his hand to block Song Shen's attack. However, his body would swiftly pull back each time such a collision occurred, appearing as though he was unable to bear that attack. However, no one realized that with the flow of time, traces of bright redness were vaguely appearing on Lin Dong's skin. There seemed to be something that was firmly suppressed deep with his eyes. That kind of feeling was as though he was a volcano which was about to erupt. Wild and violent Yuan power that was accompanied by a shocking energy ripple, continuously swept apart in the messy rock grounds. There were 6 figures amongst them, who were flashing and crossing each other in a ghost-like manner, causing one to feel a little dazzled. Turns out Lin Dong is actually a useless person who acts tough but has little substance. They were only able to become famous likely because of that fellow called Lin Jiao. A blood-red cloaked figure on a large rock looked towards the battleground with a sinister expression and laughed coldly. "We should also attack. Liu Bai and Yang Sen are not ordinary individuals. It is likely that we will need to expend a great amount of effort in order to finish them off." A person with dense white clothes and darkly cold eyes turned towards Liu Bai's group at the chaotic ground, and spoke in an indifferent manner. "All right, we'll finish this battle as soon as possible." Shui Ying gave an abnormal laugh. Immediately, he turned his body and suddenly rushed out. A rich bloody scent spread out from within his body, causing those who sniff it to feel like vomiting. The minds of these people would also fall into a trance-like state. It appeared that a trace of lethal poison was contained within the scent. It is likely that we will be quite close to stepping into the Nirvana golden ranking after we take the Nirvana seals of these two fellows. Hua Jiu let out a loud and dense laugher. He closely followed and fiercely violent Yuan power swept out. It directly covered over Liu Bai's group in the distance. When the two of them moved, a large group of people behind them also suddenly followed closely behind. Clearly, they were the experts from the two large empires. There were even experts from the Sky Devil Empire amongst them. Their momentum was quite powerful. Their actions were naturally discovered by Liu Bai's group. Immediately, their expressions changed, while their eyes also had a ruthless expression flickering within them. They were not afraid of engaging the Blood Seal Empire or the Bone Jade Empire as long as there were no experts on the level of the three devils from the Song clan amongst the other party. After all, who would end up emerging victorious was still up in the air. These jerks have been arrogant for too long after having the Sky Devil Empire support them during this period of time. It is time to seek some payback today. An expert behind Liu Bai clenched his teeth and said, "There are still some experts from the Sky Devil Empire within this group who are a little troublesome to deal with." Liu Bai's eyes suddenly looked towards the back of the Shui Ying. There were two extremely powerful aura at that spot. Although the auras had yet to reach the level of the 5 Yuan Nirvana stage, they were also considered as genuine 4 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. Moreover, these two people were competent warriors from within the Sky Devil Empire, and they were not weaker than Feng Kang, who had been defeated in Lin Dong's hands back then. The combination of Liu Bai's and Yang Sen's parties was not inferior to the Blood Seal Empire and the Bone Jade Empire. However, they could not ignore the Sky Devil Empire. Although the most troublesome, three devils of the Song clan, had been currently held back by Lin Dong's group, there were still quite a number of skillful individuals under them. An example was the two figures whom Liu Bai had seen within the group. They possessed an extremely powerful fighting strength. Moreover, Liu Bai and Yang Sen had to fight with Shui Ying and Hua Jiu, and they would not be able to free themselves to lend a hand. Hence, if they allowed these two fellows to join the chaotic battle, it would undoubtedly end up being a huge blow against them. "Why don't you leave those two to me?" While Liu Bai was fretting over this matter, a timid voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Immediately, everyone became stunned. They turned their heads before their faces were stunned as they looked at the green-clothed young pretty lady. That young and pretty face of the young lady immediately became sleek red upon becoming the center of attention. "You?" Liu Bai stared at Su Ru and felt a little awkward. However, he did not feel that things were comical because of it. Having witnessed the extraordinary events of Lin Dong's group, he believed that these people, who were following behind him, were likely not simple individuals. However, even they had to spend a great deal of effort if they wanted to deal with those two fellows from the Sky Devil Empire. Could it be that this young lady in front of them was actually able to fight against them on her own? "Ha ha, brother Liu Bai, just leave these two people to my sister. Amongst all of us here, she is the strongest besides the Lin Dong trio." Su Kuei laughed. His tone contained a little pride. Liu Bai and Yang Sen were startled upon hearing this. Their gazes were surprised as they looked towards the somewhat embarrassed Su Ru. Since Su Kuei had spoken in this manner, it was obvious that the young lady in front should be in possession of quite a great ability. Otherwise, he would not push his sister forward. "In that case, we will leave it to your sister. However, if you encounter any trouble later, we will dispatch some people to help share a little of the burden. No matter what happens, I hope that you will continue to survive. If the victor could be determined on Lin Dong's side, the result of this battle will appear." Liu Bai cupped his hands together and said, "Yes. I will do my best." Su Ru looked towards the battleground between Lin Dong and Song Shen. A worried expression flashed across her beautiful large eyes. She immediately nodded after that. It appeared that Lin Dong's situation was currently not going well. In that case, she must not end up failing. Otherwise, it was likely that the pressure placed on Lin Dong's shoulders would become even greater. Liu Bai ceased saying anything upon seeing this. He was genuinely uncertain about whether Su Ru would be able to block the two skilled warriors from the Sky Devil Empire. However, he did not have any other choice at this moment. Attack! Liu Bai and Yang Sen exchanged glances with one another, before they abruptly let out a low cry. Mighty Yuan power suddenly erupted. Their bodies rushed out and directly met with Shui Ying's group, which was rushing over explosively. A fierce aura surged the two groups of people behind them. After which, the groups became like floodwater as they completely blocked the experts from the Blood Seal Empire and Bone Jade Empire. Bang bang! The people from both parties were just like giant waves that swept over the land, before they violently clashed into one another. Wild and violent Yuan power immediately spread out in all directions. The battleground was expended within a short moment. Killing cries directly charged towards the clouds. Big brother, all of you should be careful. Su Ru's pretty small face had become much more serious at this moment. She looked at the two somewhat formidable warriors from the Sky Devil Empire. Her delicate fingers immediately landed on her snow-white wrist. Her seal technique changed as they directly landed on her 3 seals. 3 seals, open! Su Ru cried out softly. A strange jade-green energy swept out from within her body like floodwaters. Her long hair danced and a shocking aura spread apart. Quite a number of surprised gazes were being attracted. Clearly, they had some difficulty imagining that such a young lady would actually be in possession of such a mighty power. The jade-green light surged before Su Ru's delicate body rushed out with a lightning-like speed. 2 jade-green energy agglomerated into a ring shape in her hands. After which, they directly turned into 2 cold light that shot towards the 2 skilled warriors from Sky Devil Empire. Green light tore through the air and shot out at an extremely shocking speed. Even the 2 warriors from Sky Devil Empire were merely able to see a light flickering from the corner of their eyes. After which, that sharp ring arrived in front of them. Immediately, some cold sweat surfaced on the foreheads of the 2 of them. They hurriedly slammed their hand, which had a golden light surging over it. Finally, they slammed heavily onto the ring. The sound of metal appeared. Those 2 warriors from the Sky Devil Empire shot backwards immediately. Their expressions were a little ugly as they looked at their palm. Some traces of blood vaguely appeared. Clearly, they did not expect that their bodies would still be injured after activating their Nirvana golden bodies. Liu Bai's group, which had been observing this side, immediately seemed to have been relieved of a great burden as they let out a sigh. Only then could they focus on dealing with Shui Ying's group in front of them. He, Liu Bai, you should not be so stubborn. Obediently hand over the Nirvana seal and I might grant you a quick and easy death. A majestic blood glow surged around Shui Ying's body. After which, it transformed into waves after waves of shocking attacks that covered Liu Bai. At the same time, a dense cold laughter was being emitted from his mouth. It is a little too early for you to be celebrating. Liu Bai let out a cold snort. He clenched his hand and a long spear appeared with a flash. The shadows of the spear immediately surged. It became just like a storm, as it carried a shockingly sharp aura and launched a counter-attack. Ha, even though you are currently able to endure, Brother Songzhen would be able to join in the fight once Lin Dong is defeated. At that time, I will see just what morale you people will have. Shui Ying laughed ferociously. He repeatedly attempted to give pressure to Liu Bai through his words and caused the latter to reveal some openings. Liu Bai's expression was dark and solemn. However, he did not say anything else. He was clearly aware that Shui Ying was speaking the truth. Once that Songzhen was freed, the battle over this side would definitely become a one-sided one. However, he was helpless when it came to this. Currently, the only thing he could do was hope that Lin Dong would be able to endure a little longer. At the very least, they seemed to have quite a great advantage at the battle little Martin was in. Sharp spear shadows appeared, forcing back the attacks from Shui Ying. Liu Bai's gaze could not resist glancing towards Lin Dong's battleground. At that spot, the area where Lin Dong could dodge had already been gradually suppressed by Songzhen until an extremely small one. If this continued, it was likely that Lin Dong would be forced by Songjin until he had no retreat path left within a short period of time. Lin Dong, just what are you doing? This is not like you. Could it be that you have really been pushed back by Songjin until such an extent? Liu Bai clenched his teeth and quietly muttered in his heart. Bang! A shocking sound suddenly resounded over this chaotic rocky ground. Wind rippled as it spread. Everyone's eyes looked over almost instant, only to see that Lin Dong had actually been forced to directly meet Songjin's punch head-on. Has he been forced into a corner? The corner of the eyes of quite a number of people twitched when they looked at this stiff situation. If they were to descend into a forcefully clash, Songjin would clearly be able to rely on his 5-yuan Nirvana stage strength to suppress Lin Dong. Haha, what can you do now? Songjin's figure did not move as his palm wind swept apart. His eyes revealed an expression of ridicule as he looked towards Lin Dong, who was directly forced back 10 steps. Bang! Lin Dong's foot stepped heavily onto the ground. A deep footprint appeared. His body trembled slightly and a bright red color had already appeared under his skin. He lowered his head, appearing to be suppressing something. A moment later, both of his fists were suddenly clenched tightly. He was finally unable to endure any longer as he raised his head and emitted a low and deep voice. Bang! After this low and deep cry was emitted, everyone immediately saw circular substance like bright red flames suddenly sweeping out from within his body. The rocks on the ground were destroyed wherever the flame passed. Not even powder remained. Those people with sharp eyes were also able to see the rising clusters of black-colored fire seedling within the flame. Is that the Nirvana demon flame? The chaotic rocky ground was instantly silent. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Lin Dong, whose entire body had turned bright red. They could sense a familiar ripple from Lin Dong's body. That was the Nirvana tribulation. Lanying and Fengqing beside her on the large rock had a solidified expression on their faces. A shock had surged out from deep within their eyes like floodwaters. They had finally understood why Lin Dong had turned so weak as well as the reason for him repeatedly dodging Songjin's attacks. He was actually undergoing a Nirvana tribulation. Undergoing a Nirvana tribulation during battle? Upon thinking of this, Lanying could not resist inhaling a deep breath of cold air despite her coolness. She muttered, "That fellow is really a freak." This video will end here.